Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, directed by Mark Molloy, stars Eddie Murphy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Kevin Bacon. 40 years after his unforgettable first case in Beverly Hills, Detroit cop Axel Foley returns to solve crimes and cause chaos. This release came as a surprise for me, as I remember seeing it being announced randomly just one day, so naturally I had to catch up with the franchise. I enjoyed the first movie, I liked the second movie seemingly a lot more than most people do, and like the majority, I think the third movie, while having some cool ideas, is relatively a piece of shit. But regardless of these ups and downs, I was still excited to check this out and hope it would be just as good as its predecessors. Eddie Murphy is still a delight to watch on screen. He oozes the charisma as much as he did in the 80s, while also bringing a slight level of maturity to his character. While he seemed too mature in the third movie, he opted to bring the character back to his roots, causing schemes and getting into hijinks whenever he can in this one. He presents some pretty funny moments in this movie too that got a few laughs out of me. It was interesting to see him take the character in a way to where he's still clinging to the past but not in a desperate way. It evokes the type of feeling Tom Cruise was giving off in Top Gun Maverick. For a revival movie like this, it only felt fitting for this to be the direction of its character, and I thought they handled that pretty well. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was also pretty good here too. He is playing a detective that gets begrudgingly partnered with Foley, and he also displays a pretty well done balanced performance by channeling his action star side to having some good comedic moments too. The banter he and Eddie Murphy have with each other works and fits well into the world this movie has created. Taylour Paige plays Axel Foley's daughter in the movie, which makes part of this movie an estranged father-daughter story, which I'll talk about more in a bit. She did a fine job here too. She's another person that by force is essentially has to be partnered with Axel in order to find out what's going on in this case. He wasn't in her life for a good majority of it, and she displays this resentment to him very well. She basically acts as another version of Foley, but despite me saying that, they thankfully don't take this movie in the direction of having her character be the new generation's equivalent to the legacy character and having her be better than him in every way without having any real reason for her to act like that. They treat the two characters basically as equals in terms of skill level, and I thought that was pretty refreshing to see. They get Judge Reinhold back in this, and while he isn't in the movie all too much, I thought the scenes he was in, he did pretty good. He always manages to chew the scenery as this character. Even all these years later, they still give him some funny stuff to do, despite him not really being in the movie all that much. Kevin Bacon plays a captain in this, and he's another example of an actor that, one, you can tell is having a really great time in this role, and two, again, chews up the scenery whenever he's in it. At least I thought so. But without getting into too heavy detailed spoilers, I can't fully express why he's like that. I'll just have to leave it there. The story of this movie is alright. It's structured basically like any other Beverly Hills Cop movie. We have a sequence at the start where we see Foley chasing these guys down in a snowplow. It was pretty entertaining. It ends, big surprise, in a shootout, which is pretty much every climax of these things. There's nothing wrong with sticking to formula. If anything, I thought it worked pretty well for the movie. Like I mentioned already, it also acts as a father-daughter story where the two of them have to work together to solve this case. Foley's daughter doesn't want to because he left, and Foley along the way is trying to rekindle things with her. I thought this aspect of the story was done well and felt like it added another thing to this franchise that was new. We get to see this personal side of Foley. There are some pretty entertaining set pieces throughout the movie too. One in particular I really liked was this helicopter escape sequence, which for the most part looked real. I haven't fact checked this, of course, but from the way it's shot and executed, a good majority of that scene looked and felt like it was real. So if it was, I commend the filmmakers for wanting to do that. However, despite a lot of these praises, I do think the movie gets bogged down a bit in its second half. It kind of feels like it goes on for just a bit too much, as we're subjected to a number of side quests, and granted, during these we do see some characters from the other movies, but it does distract from the main objective and it feels like it meanders just a little bit too much. But once we get to around the last 30 minutes of the movie, it picks up again and we're subjected to some pretty fun action sequences that kept me entertained. Overall, I did like this movie. I don't think it's anything incredibly offensive. It's not one of these legacy sequels that chooses to take a shit on the franchise in service of pandering to new audiences. It does feel like a natural progression into this franchise. It's a good way of stopping in and checking in on these characters in modern day and seeing what they're doing. They integrate the modern age decently into this movie too. There isn't a big emphasis on this being a modern movie. There's a sequence showing what Beverly Hills is like nowadays, and rather than having Foley be this jaded granddad spitting at the evolution of modernity, we see him just going with the flow of everything and easily adapting to change, which feels very in character. Me, however, I couldn't help but just wince tense at a scene of a bunch of people gathering around and recording things on their phones, or another moment where there is a heartfelt conversation with Foley and his daughter that gets distracting with a number of product placement in the background. Other than these aspects though, more things worked than didn't. It is just a shame that as this movie goes on, it did lose me quite a bit. I'm giving Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley 3 stars. It's certainly a decent entry into the franchise and manages to feel just like all of the other movies while bringing in some familiar performances that make for an engaging watch for the most part. However, it feels like they threw nearly too much into the movie and felt a little unnecessary that I did find myself getting bored at times. Thankfully, there was enough fun set pieces that made me still like it just enough.